Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this Friday morning. We have a wonderful presentation for you today. This is Victoria Beal with the Ohio LTAP Center, and I'm so pleased to have my colleague, Vicki Fout from ODOT's research program to present for you on the STAR program. As a quick reminder, in our handout section, we do have a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation. If for some reason you cannot download it out of there, don't despair. It'll go out in a follow-up email as well after the presentation has completed. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Vicki. You ready?
Yep.
Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Victoria, and thank you all for taking some time to join us. We are going to be talking to you all about a new program that we have going on here at ODOT's research office called the Student Transportation Advancement Research Program, which is going to be better known by its acronym of STAR. If you guys do have some questions that you think of while we're going through this, feel free to type them into the question pod. We will have a Q&A session at the end that we'll go through. We'll answer as many questions as we can once we make it through the whole presentation. So we've definitely allotted some time for that. Those of you who attended one of the university visits that our office has been conducting over the last few months, you've heard some of this information already, but we have made some clarifications as to how this is going to be working. So stay tuned, don't hang up. You will get some new information here that nobody else has heard yet. Those of you who've been involved with transportation research over the years may remember several years back, we had a program called the Student Study Program. And what that program did was it provided some financial support to a graduate student who was doing a thesis on a transportation topic. Program was rather successful. We did it for several years, but a few years back, the program got disbanded. And the reason why that happened was we got feedback from technical folks at ODOT with some concerns and some issues about how the program was running, and they didn't think it was bringing them as much benefit for the investment that they were making of their time. So the program got disbanded. We, and since then, have gotten a lot of feedback from various different universities asking for us to bring back some type of a student study program, something involving transportation research and the students more so than the traditional projects that you see from us. We reached back out to the different technical areas here at ODOT, got some of their feedback on what they might be interested in seeing, might be willing to participate in. And then we did something totally insane. We called some faculty at different universities throughout Ohio, and we asked them, what would you like to see in a student program if we brought one back? And what are some things that we should keep in mind and think about as we're moving forward with developing a program that would make it easier for it to work through academic schedule and qualifications and requirements, and something that would just fit well. Based on all of that input that we put together, we are proud to roll out the new STAR program. This is the pilot year for it. What really is STAR? It's a competition. This is an open challenge grant style program that's going to be administered through ODOT's research program. This is the first time that ODOT is actually doing a grant program as opposed to a contract reimbursement for services rendered that you see through our traditional projects. So this is the first grant program using SP&RB funds. Now, our goal through this program is to engage and nurture that next generation of transportation professionals in Ohio by having students work directly with ODOT technical staff on transportation research topics. Now, the students are going to get to learn how practitioners actually deal with these issues in the real world, and it'll also give them an opportunity to help develop some of those skills related to how to managing a project, coordinating a project, and communicating what you're doing on your projects with other experts in the field. A little extra experience that they can get through that they might not be getting in other avenues. Another goal with this program is we want to encourage innovation. STAR is meant to challenge students and ODOT to examine those traditional transportation topics in a different way and to think more outside the box. Now, innovation is a really big buzzword right now. It's got a lot of different meanings. So we wanted to make sure that we told you what innovation means to STAR. And for STAR, when we say we're looking for innovation, we're looking for novel approaches to solve those transportation issues. We're trying to create some new value by applying new approaches or new processes or new techniques to these established topics, or it could possibly be just completely to test out a brand new idea that hasn't been done yet. Now, I mentioned to you STAR is going to be different from the old traditional student study program you used to see. That old program was one student that was a graduate student help with their thesis. STAR is all about teams. We're wanting to encourage that innovation, and when you've got a collaborative effort going on, you can get more innovation happening because you can get more different ideas bouncing around. So we want the STAR projects to be conducted by teams that are comprised of students. We're not expecting to see a bunch of extra people who aren't from academia involved in these projects. The teams can be comprised of undergraduate students, graduate students, or a combination of both. It's completely up to you how you want to put the teams together. Now, this will be a project that has a contract with it, so we do need a principal investigator. So the academic advisor or the faculty member that's going to be responsible for the team is going to serve as the PI for the project. And they're going to be responsible for all that fun, exciting contractual stuff that comes along with every project. And they're going to be providing oversight, guidance, and technical direction to that student team that's going to be working on the project. But we do expect the students to drive that project forward and to actively participate in all aspects of the project. And that includes being at meetings and participating in those. So if you get a STAR project, when you have your startup meeting, the students are going to need to attend that startup meeting. And when you have a startup meeting, those of you who have done research with us before, you know we give you some time as the researcher to do a presentation to your TAC about what you're going to do. You get an opportunity to ask them questions, clarify any needs you may have with them. We want the students to do that during the startup meeting, not the PI. That way they can get that experience doing it. And also the monthly status meetings that you're going to be having with your TAC, the students are expected to participate in those. We want the students to prepare the presentations that's going to be given to the ODOT technical folks on your TAC. We want them to give the presentation during the call. Now, we do want the PIs to be on the call and to be ready, because there's a pretty good chance ODOT might ask you a question about some of the results you're finding or whether you've considered certain aspects. And some of those questions may be beyond what the students have learned so far, so they might not quite be able to answer it. But you as the PI will have that knowledge, that experience. You can jump in, help the students out, get the answers done to the TAC that they need to have. But we really are wanting that emphasis on the students and letting them have a chance to run these. Now, when we talked with the different faculty at the different universities, we were asking about the timing of the program. And one of the biggest inputs we got from them is, if we really want it to be focused on the students, we need it to adjust it from how the standard RFP process works. So we created a different calendar for STAR to follow. Our annual RFP always goes out in January, and we try our best to get the projects to start as close to in July as we can. But that wasn't going to be very good with the academic year. Now, the schedule you see on your screen right now is the schedule the pilot of STAR is going to be following. Now, when we made the university visits last week, we already got some really good feedback from the concept from the folks who attended those meetings. There could possibly be some tweaks to this schedule next year based on what we heard then. We're going to see how it goes. But for this year, all the TACs that are going to be participating in STAR spent all the month of August coming up with the topics. And in September, the STAR RFP was issued. It actually went out on Wednesday. You should have gotten an email if you signed up for our listserv that takes you directly to where the posting's at. If you did not get that email, that's because you've not signed up for the research listserv. Go on our website, sign up for that. You don't want to miss these opportunities. The RFP is going to be closing in October, actually on the 14th. At that time, we're going to be reviewing all the submissions that came in. Our intention is that by the end of November, we'll know who's going to be awarded STAR projects and have the approval from ODOT leadership and can announce those. We're going to then spend the month of December doing the contract negotiations with the universities that won them. The submitters may be asked to make some refinements, a little bit of changes to their proposals based on what the ODOT TAC says. The overall goal is that in January, we can start the projects and kick them off kind of to coincide with the winter semester. Now, for those of you who didn't get the notification that the STAR RFP was live on Wednesday, you may be wondering, what does an RFP look like? Or perhaps you didn't make it to the website to see it. So we're going to show you what you're actually going to see for those of you who haven't clicked on it yet. This is an actual RFP that's posted on the website right now for STAR. They're very different from what you see during the annual RFP. In the annual RFP, you get more information than you're going to get for STAR, and that's on purpose because we want to encourage the innovation, and the best way to do that is to be less prescriptive and let you guys in the research community figure out what's the best way to address this and just go for it. You're going to have an RFP number, and that's going to be important because you want to make sure when you do your submission, you line it up with the correct number so you're getting put into the correct projects queue. Then you're going to see your research topic. This is very high level. The majority of them look very similar to this. They're one line. There's not a whole lot of information so that you can be as innovative as you can, decide how you want to approach the topic, and propose us a scope of work of how you would address it. The next item you're going to see is the requirements for the research team. Now, you may be thinking, wait a minute, you said earlier these are supposed to be teams of students. Yes, they are supposed to be teams of students. When it comes to the requirements, we know students are going to have some experience. They've took some coursework. Perhaps some of them have worked on some research studies. They've got a little bit. But when it comes to having the majority of the requirements, we are going to be looking pretty hard at that PI who's going to be managing the project to have a lot of this experience, expertise, and knowledge to fill in that gap. Because that's just where most of it's going to come from when you're dealing with students who haven't had an opportunity to be out there in the field as long. The next part you're going to see on the RFP is the duration. Duration for a STAR project is very important, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail in just a moment about what all the duration tells you. Now, ODOT was given an option when they were submitting their topics for STAR. They could either specify a duration or they could leave it open and say that the submitters can propose a duration that they would like to do. For the pilot round, every ODOT person who submitted a topic specified a duration. So all 10 of the RFPs that are on the website now will have a stated duration on them. But we'll still tell you how the duration plays into how the projects run here in just a moment. Because ODOT specified a duration, there is a set funding amount for the STAR grant that you're going to be receiving. We stated it directly on the RFP so that you know straight up how much that's going to be worth. There is also something, this is new. If you were at the university visits, this was not talked about because this happened afterwards. There is a clarification on the RFPs regarding a limitation on indirect costs. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how that was generated in just a moment. But I did mention to you guys that the duration is very important in the STAR program. It dictates how much of an award that grant is going to be for. It also dictates the payment schedule and the due date for your draft report submissions. So STAR has 4 time frames that a topic can be set for. If you have a 4 or a 6 month STAR project, the maximum amount of the grant is going to be $50,000. You're going to be doing disbursements of that grant and sending in your invoices. At the halfway point, you can get $25,000. The final $25,000 comes at the end of the project when all deliverables have been received. If you have a 4-month STAR project, you have 3 months to do the work. That final month is reserved for your submission of your draft final report for ODOT to review it, provide you comments, and then finalize it. If you have a 6-month STAR project, you have 5 months to do the work. That final month is for the submission of your draft report, ODOT to review it, give you comments, and then you finalize it. If you get awarded a 12-month or an 18-month STAR grant, it's going to be for $100,000. The funds will be distributed 4 times throughout the life of the project, $25,000 a piece at the 25% mark, 50% mark, 75% mark, and then of course the final one comes at the end of the project when all of the deliverables have been received. If you get a 12-month, you have 10 months to do the work. The final 2 months, again, are reserved for the technical review of that draft final report and the finalization of it. An 18-month-long STAR project has 15 months to do the work. The final 3, again, for the finalization and review of that final report. Now, for those of you who are at a university visit, this next screen is all brand new stuff. When we went out to the university visits and first presented our STAR pilot program information, we got a lot of feedback, a lot of questions were coming back and forth with us. One of the biggest items that people were asking about was indirect costs. We took the information that you guys told us and we came back and we talked with the attorneys, we talked with finance, we talked with FHWA division office, we looked at all the codes, all the regulations, and it was determined that yes, we have the authority to specify a limitation for indirect on the STAR program, and that is what we have decided to do. You have a STAR project, indirect costs will be limited to a maximum of 5% of the funding amount that's being awarded. Now, this is part of the award amount. It is not in addition to. So if you have an award of $50,000 for a STAR grant, the most amount that can be charged to indirect is $2,500, which will leave the team $47,500 to actually use to fund the research. If you get a $100,000 grant, the maximum amount that can be done on indirect costs is $5,000, leaving $95,000 left over for the team to actually conduct the work. That is the maximum amount you're allowed to put aside for indirect on any STAR project. Universities, however, may opt to assess a lower amount of indirect if they want to, or they can choose to do no indirect whatsoever. That is completely within your realm, your prerogative to do, but you cannot charge more than 5%. Another item that got asked quite a bit that we got clarification on was about whether or not STAR funds can be used for tuition. In Ohio, SP&RB funds is not eligible to use on tuition. So therefore, tuition is not an eligible expense on STAR because STAR is all being funded through SP&RB. So if you've gone to the website now, you can go and get the formatting guidelines for a STAR proposal. Make sure you download these and you read them closely. STAR is all about innovation and student involvement. We took the standard proposal formatting guidelines that ODOT uses for the annual RFP and we modified them. So some of it looks similar, but they are very different. So make sure you read them carefully. There are items inside the proposal formatting requirements that ask for different things than what you see on the actual RFP that you see comes out in January. There are different sections. For example, on the STAR project, there is actually a section in your proposal where you're going to have to describe the innovation. You're going to be asked on your goals and objectives to explain how they're supportive of ODOT's mission, vision, or critical success factors. There are slight nuances to this that are different. You're also going to be asked to provide specific information on your student team. You're going to have to, during the pilot, actually name the students. You're going to be asked to provide resumes on your students. No more than 2 pages, but a resume on your students. They've taken some classwork. They've got some stuff they've done that may be related to the topic. Perhaps they've served on a research project before for ODOT or for another entity, so they've had some experience doing testing, whatever that may be. You're going to have to provide some information on them. So make sure you read through the instructions very, very carefully. You'll notice when you look through them, unlike the annual RFP posting, STAR does not require you to give a budget.
Vicki, your audio seems to have stopped. I'm not sure what's going on there, but let's give Vicki a second more here to hopefully get things figured out. So if you go to, and this is comments just, okay, I can hear you now. Good.
We're back.
You're back. You're back. Yay.
Okay, I noticed that the view left too.
Okay.
Hopefully you guys are seeing the presentation now.
We are, and actually, I think we saw it all throughout the time that we couldn't hear you because we saw
Okay,
you going back and forth between the presenter view and then the regular editing view. Thanks.
all right. I'm not quite sure where you lost me at, to make sure you guys are getting all the information.
Why don't you just back up one slide? There you go. I know that we heard you talk about all the different award amounts, and you talked about the tuition, so we're good.
Okay,
All right.
okay. Apologies for that, technical issues. So proposal formatting guidelines for STAR are available on the RFP site. You can go download those and check them out. Read them carefully. They were based off of ODOT's standard proposal formatting requirements, but there are changes to them. They are not exactly the same. STAR has got a huge emphasis on student involvement and innovation, so they do ask for different information. There are sections in here that do not appear on the standard RFP formats that you will notice are different with this one. For example, we're going to ask you to describe your innovation. You won't see that on the annual RFP requirements. They're going to ask you for information specific on your students. For example, you're going to have to provide actual resumes for the people who are part of your student team. You're going to have to name them. You can't just say student 1 and student 2. So read the instructions very carefully to help you tell the difference between them. We've done some color coding. If you have a proposal formatting guideline that's green, that's the wrong one. That's not STAR, that's ODOT's annual RFP that's issued in January. If you're looking at proposal formatting guidelines that are blue, that's for OREL. You don't want that for this one. You want the yellow one. That one is going to be the one that you're going to need to make sure you pay attention to. You'll notice when you go through this, you do not have to provide a budget for the STAR proposals. It's a grant. Your duration dictates how much you're going to be awarded. You don't need to do an itemized budget for ODOT. Now, your university-sponsored programs office may require you to provide an itemized budget for them for their internal accounting purposes in order to set up funds if you get awarded, but that's between you and your university. ODOT has nothing to do with that, and we don't even want to see what you come up with. One of the questions that got asked a couple of times during the university visits was, are we expecting the students to actually write the proposal? When it comes to who's writing the proposal, that is completely up to the submitting agency. We would like for the PI to engage the student team in the proposal development as far as figuring out the work plan, how you want to address it and things of that nature, but who actually physically sits down and writes it, that's totally up to you guys. We realize proposals aren't the easiest things in the world to put together, so you can decide whether or not you want the students to try to write it or send it in. Now, once you send in your proposal and you've submitted it on time and it's received before the deadline, what do we do with it? Well, it's going to get evaluated at that point. Now, the scoring criteria that you're looking at on your screen is linked directly back to the STAR proposal guidelines. That's why I want to make sure that you read those carefully, because how they're going to score your submission relates directly to what we asked you to do in writing your proposal. There are going to be 3 items that are going to be evaluated before any TAC actually sees the proposal that you wrote and does a technical evaluation of it. The first thing is you must have submitted on a topic that was included in the posting. When we went out to the ODOT technical areas and told them about this new concept, this new program, what do you think? Can you be involved? We got a lot of positive feedback from them, but we were also told by several areas that while we think it's interesting, we'd love to participate, we do not have the resources available at this time to put towards a STAR project. Because of that, we cannot have an open-ended solicitation right now. We want to be respectful of our technical experts' time, and if they don't have the time to do it, we're not going to bring in proposals on their topics that they can't manage. So for this time being, during the pilot, you can only bid on once it's posted. Hopefully in the future, we'll be able to open that up a bit. The second item, you must be a university or college that's based in Ohio. STAR is only open to Ohio-based colleges. We will not take submissions from out-of-state universities or from consultants. It doesn't matter if you're a public or a private university, it only matters that you're in Ohio. And the third item that's going to get checked is you must include the information on your students. Someone from the research staff will look through your proposal. Have you named the students? Are there resumes on at least 2 students? If there is not, then your proposal will not be forwarded. If there is, and you meet all 3 of those requirements, it goes on to the TACs that are going to be sponsoring the project, and then they will look at the technical merits of the proposal. The way they're going to score these is very similar to how they score any other proposal that's going on here at ODOT. We have 5 categories. They're going to assign points via consensus from all the TAC members to each category. 0 means it wasn't covered, 5 means it was excellent. And then they get a weight charged to each category to come up with a final point value for that submission. They're going to look at your proposal in terms of concept and innovation. Does your proposal include a clear concept addressing a topic that was posted? Are the goals and objectives that you've identified in your proposal in line with the mission and vision or critical success factors of ODOT? Then they're going to look specifically at that work plan that you have proposed. Does it make sense? Is it consistent with those goals and objectives that you stated you were going to have earlier on in the proposal? Is it a well thought out work plan? Does it have a sufficient detail for us to tell what it is you're going to be doing and understand how you're approaching the topic? Is it realistic? And is there any tasks specifically that we can see in this work plan that we would consider being innovative or novel? For both of those 2 first categories, your proposal is going to have to earn a minimum score of 3. If you don't get a 3 in both concept innovation and work plan, the TAC is going to stop the review process and the proposal is not going to be accepted for funding. If you do get a minimum of 3, they're going to go on and score the next 3 categories. They're going to see, okay, as the proposal overall does a good job of describing the current state of practice, that you understand what's currently happening in that field. They're going to look at the potential benefits that you've proposed could be received from funding your concept. Is they clearly outlined in the proposal? Does it explain how ODOT could use these results if they're good? Are there any expected benefits that we could really use? And is there anyone outside of ODOT that might find this research interesting? Perhaps it's something that could be useful for another state agency like ODNR or the Ohio EPA. Perhaps this is something maybe locals might be interested in what you find out. Maybe the counties could utilize it, or this could have a big impact on an urban area or a rural area within Ohio and how they're handling stuff on their transportation network. And it could be that what you've come up with is so interesting and innovative that other state DOTs could find this interesting. We have a lot of folks here at ODOT that participate on pooled fund studies or are involved on NCHRP projects, and perhaps what you've proposed actually relates really good to a project that one of our ODOT TAC members is serving on one of those national projects that they might like to share it with them once it's done so that they could find out what you've done. Then they're going to look at the research team and the resources that you have. Is the PI who's proposing this project full of enough expertise and technical knowledge to actually lead this team of students? And then does that student team and the PI have the time and availability to manage this project and actually conduct the work? And then we're going to see, okay, do you have the facilities and equipment that you need to conduct what you're proposing to conduct? Now, once they get through evaluating all the proposals they've received on their topic, if this were an annual RFP project, the highest score wins, and that's it. But STAR is a little bit different. STAR is about innovation. It's about out-of-the-box thinking. We consider these a little bit more high-risk type projects because they're being less prescriptive in the way they're being developed. And because of that, it's quite possible that University A and University B submissions could both be very good and could both be of really big interest to the TAC. Or perhaps the same university had 2 different teams propose on the same topic and they're addressing it from 2 completely different directions. And there's really good potential that you're going to get something really cool out of both of them. If the TAC has the availability of their time and the funds are available in the research budget, they have the opportunity, they can pick more than one. They can choose to fund 2 different STAR proposals for the same topic. Now, the opposite of that is also the same. If they're looking at the proposals and they're like, well, they're not bad, they're pretty good, but none of them's kicking it out of the ballpark for us. We're not feeling them. There's just not enough innovation in what they've sent in. We don't think it's going to be worth investing our time in it based on what we've gotten. They can choose not to accept any of them. So they have both options there when it comes to actually selecting and awarding of the STAR projects. Now, if you're fortunate enough to get one of these, you're probably wondering, how do I get my money? Because it's great we got it, but we still need to get paid. Since it's a grant, the way you're going to be billing for your money is very different than from how you do on every other project that you conduct for ODOT. So we've worked with our finance office and we've created a sample template that you can utilize for billing for your STAR projects. Now, we realize the layout may look a little bit different from what you submit, but it's all about getting the same content and information provided. So the sample invoice you see on your screen's got a lot of the same information you would have for any other invoice that you're billing for. You've got your references back to your projects and your agreements so that we make sure you're billing for the right project and we know where it's at. You've got your award amount listed down there that shows the overall thing, and then you have your current billing period. Now, for this example here, this person got a 12-month STAR project, which was worth $100,000, and this is their very first bill. So they're allowed to bill for $25,000. They submit their bill. This particular university decided that they were going to include indirect cost at the maximum amount. So they take their $25,000, they put 5% under indirect, and they put the rest under total direct costs. Everything for STAR is considered a service. So that is your main funding category, and it's either a direct service or it's an indirect cost. After you put that information in, you need to make sure on your bill that you show your total percent that has been expended. And when we're talking expended, we're talking about your time spent and your services that you've done and that you've produced. So they've done 25%, there's 75% remaining. That is the main part of your actual invoice that you submit for STAR. Now, you do need to have some backup documentation, but we have no budget categories, so there's no receipts for travel, there's no receipts for supplies or anything like that. STAR is a grant that's payment is based on progress made. So you're going to be taking the project schedule that was included in your proposal, and you're going to take a snapshot of that and put it in for your supporting documentation. Then you're going to draw a big, gigantic line that shows where you are in the progress of the project. Everything preceding the line represents work that's been completed. Everything after the line is stuff that's yet to be done. Then you're going to include a very important sentence at the very bottom of the bill that says, for additional details, please refer to presentations provided at monthly status meetings. If your STAR project gets pulled for an audit, we will be using those presentations that the students prepared and gave to the TAC as the supporting documentation for your billing. It's a grant. The payments are being made based on progress complete. So that is why it's very important that you put good information in on those presentations. Overall, for us, STAR is being considered an award. This is a competition. It's a grant. To win one of these is a big thing. And in that vein, we want to give some special recognition to those who actually award one of these. Of course, you're going to get highlighted in the greatest newsletter that's ever been written in the entire country moving forward. Everybody will get to hear about you with that. We're also going to do some special highlights at the research summit that's going to be coming back. But the big one that we're still working to figure out how we can make this be arranged is
Vicki, your
ODOT.
screen changed again. It kicked back out to the editing view, just as you were mentioning OTEC.
Okay, my apologies, folks. I'm having connectivity issues apparently. Okay, we'll just use this view since it's being unhappy. Can you all still hear me, hopefully?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Our big thing is OTEC. We want to get some kind of recognition happening for you guys at OTEC, whether it's through a session where students get to come and present what they did for the STAR projects, or it's some type of poster presentation that happens somewhere at the event, or even maybe something that occurs in the exhibit hall. We're still working out the details of what that looks like and how that will actually work. But that is a goal that we do have that we're hoping we can get to. So I mentioned to you guys earlier that the RFP was issued on Wednesday. You can see on your screen the link to get to the posting. Yes, that is actually a hyphen between the word research and program. It's not just a return, it's actually a hyphen. But if you're not sure if you're going to get that copy down correctly, you can always just go directly to our website here. And there is a link that will take you directly to the STAR posting. We've got an announcement scroller at the top. You can always click on that. The RFP will close on October 14th at 3 p.m. sharp. We will be using our FormStack software for you guys to make the submissions. The form does shut itself down at 3, so make sure you allow ample time to submit your STAR proposal so you meet that deadline so you can be considered. Unfortunately, FormStack does not allow you to save your information. Make sure you have everything ready, put it all on there at one time, and then submit it. You can't save it and come back for later. If we could make it do that, we would. You can always email us with any questions that you have, but we do have some time left over here in our presentation for questions. We're going to answer as many of these as we can right now. So I'm going to go to the chat pod here.
It's the questions box there, Vicki, and if you can undock it and drag it out onto your screen and stretch it out, it'll make it easier for you to see those. Or I can read the questions off to you. It's either way.
Oh, I've got them right here. I found them.
Great.
Okay, so our first question is, where should we ask our questions about the topics? We have a project about a problem that creates ice for cable bridges. Could we propose a proposal in this topic, or the proposal should be about aviation and similar topics? Okay. When it comes to submitting proposals on specific topics, you can only respond to the 10 topics that are posted on the RFP page. You cannot submit anything outside of those 10 topics. If you have a question about anything that is posted, there is a link on the website to submit a question. During an RFP solicitation for STAR, just like it is for all the others, there is a blackout period. Contact the research office with any question that you may have, whether it's about formatting a proposal, how it's going to be awarded, or if it's for a clarification on a topic. Click on that, submit a question, send it to us. We will work with the technical folks to get it answered and replied to it. Do not contact ODOT technical people during the RFP to ask them questions about a topic. You may think you know who submitted the question, but you could be wrong, and that would be embarrassing. But the technical folks in ODOT already know that they are not allowed to talk to prospective researchers. So if you call them to chat with them about the topics, they're going to tell you you've got to contact research. And then when they get your proposal, they're going to remember, hey, this is the person who asked me questions, even though they knew everything was supposed to go through research. And that might impact the way they view your scoring, because they might think you're not going to listen to them once the project is picked if you didn't follow the posted instructions. So anything outside of the topics that are posted, we will not consider for funding for this year. So unfortunately, if it's not specific to the topic, do not waste your time putting it together. It will not move forward. Another question we have is, do you provide the site that could be potentially used for research in our locations? The site we have right now is the RFP website that you see the link here on your screen, or you can go to our website here and it will get you to that. That is where you have the link for that as far as potential new projects that are going to be funded. If you go to our website, there is a card on there that says projects. That will take you to all the projects that have been conducted by ODOT or OREAL over the last several decades. And you can see what types of projects typically come out of our program. And if there's final reports available for those, there will be links to them on that. And you can go and get additional information on those from that portion of the website. We have another question. Can funding be used to pay student stipend and tuition? Stipend, yes. You may use funding from STAR to pay student stipend. Tuition, no. Tuition is not an eligible expenditure for SP&R funds. What is the requirement on student eligibility? Does it require resident or citizenship? Student eligible, we will have to check on the residency and citizenship and see if that is going to make a difference. We will look into that and get a posted clarification put on the STAR website as soon as we can get that from our HR department. The requirements as far as expertise go are listed on the individual RFPs. If your students have any kind of experience, whether it's they've had classes on it or they've worked on topics in that, you can reference that for that particular thing. As far as other eligibility requirements of the student, they need to be an active student enrolled at a university based in Ohio. But we will double check on citizenship and let you know if there's any concerns with that. Another question. Tuition is not eligible use of funds at all, or is it just that you don't want to see details including tuition? This was asked several times during the university visits. Tuition is not an eligible use of the funds, period. You are not going to be able to use them to pay tuition, even if we do not see it on your bills. Another question, will each of the STAR topics have a proposal funded? Not necessarily. If the submissions that are received by the tax, if they decide that none of the submissions are innovative enough or they're not providing enough potential benefit to the department to be worth the investment of their time, they can opt not to select any of them. Another question. Do you need total budget that we would like to request? Do you decide yourself what would be the total award of this particular research proposal? For this pilot year, all of the research funding amounts for each of the STAR projects has been determined. It's the duration that dictates how much of the grant is going to be provided, either $50,000 or $100,000. If ODOT had opted not to specify a duration, you as the researchers would be able to determine if you wanted to do a 4, 6, 12, or 18-month long study. However, ODOT decided they were going to dictate the duration, which also dictates the dollar amount. So when you do pull up a STAR RFP that you're thinking of proposing to, and you look at it, you will see listed directly on the RFP how much funding that project is going to receive, and you will also see what the maximum amount of indirect is going to be allowed. So when you're building your proposal and putting your teams together, keep in mind that dollar amount, because that is what you're going to be receiving. One other important thing I'd like to comment on, when it comes to the STAR projects, there will not be a funding increase. Whatever amount you are awarded at the beginning of that project is the amount you have. There will not be an increase to it. So keep that in mind as you're putting your information together. You cannot come back and ask for more funds. Another question, just to double check, this grant can't be used for tuition. That is correct. The grant cannot be used for tuition. Another question, will more than one PI, academic advisor, be allowed on one proposal? We are not limiting the number of faculty that can be there to help guide the research team, but one person has to be named as the official lead co-PI or official lead PI. If you want to have a co-PI to help coordinate with the team, perhaps you need 2 faculty members in order to meet all of the requirements of the research team, you may do that, but you do have to specify who's going to be the lead primary principal investigator and who's serving as a co. totally up to you how you want to coordinate that. Another question, is there a requirement that you must have 2 students? Can it just be 1 PhD student? Yes, we are requiring a minimum of 2 students for the pilot STAR program. We want this to be a team event, and you can't have a team when you only have 1 student. So we do need a minimum of 2. There is no maximum. You can have as many as you want, but a minimum of 2 students must be included. Another question. We have our own vegetative ditch in the university. Can we conduct research on the vegetative ditch instead of doing research in any other roadside ditches? If you're proposing on a topic that you would like to include some field work and you have access to locations to conduct those tests at your university, you are more than welcome to utilize your university resources as best as you can to conduct the work that you're proposing. You're not necessarily required to use ODOT property for that. If you have it at your university, feel free to include that. Just make sure you clarify in your scope of work how you're doing the testing and that you're using your current resources to do that. It's part of your facilities and equipment that you have access to as well. Also, you can point that out in your proposal. Next question, I want to study for 18 months. Does it mean we will receive $100,000 regardless of whether we need that amount or not for our project? Yes, these are grants. You're going to be given either $50,000 or $100,000 to conduct work based on the topic and to accomplish the scope of work that you propose in your proposal. If you end up not needing all of the funds, you still get all of the funds because it is a grant. As long as you perform, you progress, and you deliver, you will receive the entire grant amount. Another question, can we put one co-PI outside of Ohio? For the STAR program, this is all about student experience, student involvement. We are not interested in issuing projects with external agencies for the STAR program. Reach out to other areas of your college. There may be some expertise, perhaps in another department. If you're at a full university, maybe there's another college that has those expertise. Try to find them within the academic environment. We are not looking for collaborations with consultants on this particular program, and we are looking to keep all of the grant funds within the state of Ohio. So keep it to Ohio academic institutions as much as you can. Another question, do you allow collaborations between universities? We are not prohibiting collaborations between universities. However, keep in mind, this is a grant program that is awarded to one place. We are not expecting to see co-PIs from other educational institutions within Ohio, but if you can figure out how you want to manage a grant that is completely rewarded to University A and all the money goes to University A, all the accolades go to University A, all the acknowledgements go to University A, that is up to you. Another question is, what kind of costs specifically are classified to be indirect? Indirect is anything that is also called your F&A rate. You can pull up the research manual in chapter 5 for the local development project management. Under the invoicing section, there is a listing that will tell you everything that ODOT considers to be part of indirect. But in academic terms, you usually hear it called F&A rates. It's the same thing. But check out chapter 5 of the manual in the invoicing section, and it'll give you an exhaustive list of everything that is part of that. Another question, where should we ask?
Hey, Vicki, this question is a repeat from above. They wanted you to repeat the answer.
Okay, repeating the answer about if you have a specific project that you want to conduct yourself, how can you submit it? If it is not a topic directly included among the 10 items that are on the live RFP right now, don't submit it. We are only taking proposals on those 10 topics. If it is part of the topic, feel free to propose it. If it is not part of the topic, you will waste your time putting in a proposal for it. All right, another question, can a PI submit 2 proposals for 2 different topics? Yes. The same professor may be listed as a PI on more than one submission to STAR. We do not limit how many you can put in. Just make sure that you have enough time and availability to lead both projects if you happen to be selected for both projects.
I think you've made it through all of them. That's awesome. What an incredible list of questions. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we have a new one that just popped up, I believe. I am still not clear where to get the research site. For example, vegetated dish near the ODOT recommended site. We have our own though. If you are proposing on a STAR project that you would like to include field work for, and you have a site at your university that you can use to do that field work for, all you need to do in your proposal when you're putting your work plan together is state that you would like to conduct field work, explain what that field work is, and then say, we have a location at our university that we can do this work at. And in the appendix, I would recommend provide some specific details about that location. This person's talking about vegetated ditches. Go out to that site that you say your university has, take some pictures of it, talk about where it's at, include in your appendix a write-up that explains where it's at, what you can do with it, and how you plan to incorporate it. You are not required to use ODOT property to do field work if you have a suitable location to do that yourself. We have a question that just came in that says, hello, if I have a technical question about the topic, should I submit it here? What I would recommend right now is if you have a technical question about a topic, go to the STAR RFP page, and we'll see if this will work. Hopefully it does, but we've been having some technical difficulties. I'll see if I can't get the site to come up.
It's going to depend if you shared your screen or if you just shared an application.
Okay. I think I just shared the application.
So if you go over under sharing and under the show button, Vicki, you can use the drop down to share your whole screen, and then that'll show you, let you show the website. There you go.
Okay. So this is actually the STAR RFP page that is live right now on our website. If you go to here, there's this box over here called related resources. This very first link, this is your formatting submission requirements. You can get that here. When you're done and ready to submit your proposal, you can go that by clicking here. If you want to see the frequently asked questions, we created these based off of comments and questions that were made during the university visits. There's a lot of information here. You can click there and see the questions that were asked and answered at those visits. This next link right here that says request a STAR RFP clarification, that's where you need to go to ask for any technical clarifications or any clarification about how to submit. When you click on that, it will pull up a beautiful form stack form. You take this drop-down menu, you pick which one are you talking about? Which one do you want to know more information about? Put your name, put your email address, put your phone number, type whatever your question is right here, hit submit. Our office will work very quickly to get it answered as quick as we can. As the submitter of the question, you will receive an answer directly to yourself. Then we will also take whatever your question was and the answer that we got, and we will post it. If it's to a specific individual project, we will post it right here beside the actual RFP. you will see click here where you see none yet. It'll say click here and it'll be a date. So you'll know that we updated this on September 20th. So check the site back regularly while you're putting your stuff together to see if there's any clarifications that have come through. You'll know by the date when the most recent one was made. If it's about the project itself, it'll be directly there. If it's a general question, we will put it on the frequently asked questions page. So you can come here. There's general questions you can see here about proposal formatting. There's some general questions that people asked earlier on about the duration, questions about your team, what constitutes it, how you can put it together, questions that were already asked about funding and how that works, and then general questions about the contracting process that we're going to go through with STAR. So you can go to both of those places to get more information on what's happening with the STAR program. So hopefully that helps. And since we were able to get it up, and I just like scrolling at things really, really fast to make people sick. Right here are the 10 STAR topics that are currently open, and we are accepting applications on all 10 of these projects. Okay, we have another question about whether or not a site is suitable. When it comes to that, you are going to need to put together your proposal and submit it. You can offer that up as a potential site that you think will work well, tell how you plan to use it, how you plan to address it, explain how it's set up. You can put in your proposal that if there is a more suitable site that the state would prefer us to utilize on its property, that you are open to using that if need be. That is how I would recommend handling we have a site on site, but we're not sure if it's going to be suitable or if ODOT would prefer a different site. ODOT is not going to give you more detailed information on use this site, use that site during an RFP process. We want you to tell us how you are going to address these topics and to be innovative about it. We are not going to dictate that to you at this time.
Okay, it looks like there's no other questions coming in right now. So as a quick reminder, there'll be a follow-up email sent out. It'll actually be coming from the research section. So please watch for that. And if the recording on this webinar was successful, they will also be posting a link to the STAR webpage, correct, Vicki?
Correct. Yep. If the recording worked, hopefully it did, we're going to post it down here in this related box. So you can come back, watch it later. You can tell your colleagues about it. If they weren't able to make this and weren't able to participate in a university visit, they can come here and watch it. If you still have questions that you weren't able to get in during the webinar, go to the STAR page, fill out the request a STAR RFP clarification and send it in. We will answer it as quickly as we can.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and we definitely look forward to lots and lots of participation in this very innovative and great new program for our students and researchers across Ohio. Thank you, Vicki, for your time.
Thank you, everyone.